Your sexual power is truly your birthright. It is not something that you need to earn, prove, or even apologize for. It is woven into the very fabric of who you are as a man. Welcome back to The Naked Connection. This is the show that supports driven men to reach sexual mastery and build deep connections. What's up, you guys? It's Kirsten, and today we are talking about something that's been keeping really too many of you incredible men playing small in the bedroom and in your life. We are talking today about sexual shame, because here's the reality. Shame can only live in the shadows. It thrives in secrecy and the stories that we tell ourselves when no one's watching. It lives in the beliefs that we carry but never examine or even really know are there. But today we are shining a giant bright light into that darkness. So here we are. Let me paint a picture for you. There's a guy, let's call him Marcus, okay? Marcus is successful in his career. He's respected by his peers. He's confident in so many areas of his life. He crushes it on the golf course. He knows how to grill that steak, like all of the things. But in the bedroom, he's a different person entirely. Marcus finds himself holding back during sex. He wants to express himself more freely, maybe be a little rougher, maybe ask for what he really deeply wants. But every time the impulse comes up within him to actually be truthful about what it is that he desires sexually, this voice in his head shuts it down, saying something like, "That's too much. She'll think you're selfish. I shouldn't want this so badly. There's something wrong with me." So instead, he performs. He does what he thinks he's supposed to do. He says what he thinks he's supposed to say. And afterwards, he feels empty inside. He's disconnected, like he's living someone else's sexual life instead of his own. And the thing is that Marcus doesn't realize it, but what is actually going on is that he is carrying sexual shame. And it's really robbing him of the very thing that he wants most, which is that authentic, powerful, passionate, crazy, wild, dirty sexual connection and experiences. So if any part of Marcus's story sounds familiar, please know that this episode is for you. Because shame isn't just blocking your pleasure, it's actually blocking your power. And it's time that we change that. So before we go any further, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single episode. And if you've been loving the show, please take a moment and leave a review. Leave that 5-star review for the show, because it helps expose the show to more incredible men like you and get this information out there. So please take a moment and do that now. Now that you've done that, you guys, let's get some. Let's be honest. You want to be that man. The man that she can't stop replaying in her mind. The man who makes her breath catch, who leaves her dripping with anticipation, who has her begging for more before you're even touching her. Here's the thing. Great lovers, they aren't born. They are built through skill, through presence, and through deep confidence that radiates in and out of the bedroom. That is exactly what my legendary lover training gives you. This isn't a list of bedroom hacks. It is a rewiring of who you are as a man, how you carry yourself, how you own your sexual desires, how you step into sex with complete freedom and clarity. In the Legendary Lover training, you will learn practices that expand your confidence, sharpen your focus, and ground you so deeply that she feels it in every touch, in every look, and in every breath. Because when you master yourself, she feels it. And that is what makes you unforgettable in bed. I have led countless men through this training and through these practices, and they have walked out completely changed, more confident, more commanding, and more sexually magnetic. And right now, because I'm launching this for the first time, you are going to get in at a discount that I will never run again. So head on over to thenakedconnection.com/lover, LOVER, before this discount disappears. Don't just be good in bed. Be legendary. First, let's define what we're actually talking about here. Sexual shame isn't just feeling embarrassed about sex sometimes. We're talking about that deep core belief that there's something really fundamentally wrong with your sexual desires, your sexual body, or even just your sexual self, like yourself as a sexual being. It's that voice in your head that says those things like, you're disgusting for wanting this, like, good guys don't think about sex this much. Or it could be the thought that she'd be horrified if she knew what you were really into. You're too much, you're not enough, you're too sexual, you're not sexual enough. Like any of those thoughts, that is rooted in sexual shame. And sexual shame is like having this inner critic that's constantly judging and policing your sexuality. And here's the really messed up part, is that most of us don't even realize that it's there because it becomes so normalized, so ingrained that we think it's just how things are. I want you to understand something really crucial. Sexual shame, it isn't protecting you. This inner critic isn't protecting you. It's not making you a better man. It's actually blocking you and holding you back from the very thing that you want most. So let me paint a picture of how this might be showing up in your life, because this sexual shame, it's really sneaky and it doesn't always walk into the room and announce itself. It's not like, hey, what's up, homies? It's me, your sexual shame. So maybe you find yourself avoiding certain conversations about sex because you feel too activated or too uncomfortable. It could be having amazing solo sexual experiences, amazing masturbation sessions, but then struggling to bring that same energy and freedom into your partnered sex. It could be feeling like you have to perform in a really specific way instead of just being yourself sexually. It could be censoring your desires or your fantasies because you're thinking that they're too much or that they're too weird or that if you actually share them, someone is going to think you're gross or wrong. It could be feeling really disconnected from your body during sex, like you're almost watching yourself from the outside, or feeling nothing. Maybe you're there physically, but you're not actually physically feeling the sensations. It could be having difficulty asking for what you want because you're afraid of being judged. Or it could be feeling really guilty after masturbation or after having sex, like that sense of guilt lingers within you. And then finally, it could be something like believing that your natural level of sexual desire is somehow wrong or excessive. If any of this is landing, because if so, please know you are not alone. And more importantly, none of this is really your fault. So sexual shame doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's not just like poof in your life one day. It gets built over time through messages that you receive about sex. These messages could have been religious or cultural, educating you that somehow sex is dirty or sinful. It could be early experiences of being ashamed for normal sexual curiosity. Maybe you received messages growing up that good guys don't have sex that much, or that pornography that created, it could also have come from being exposed to adult films and pornography when you were really young. And that created this unrealistic expectation of how big you were supposed to be, how long you were supposed to last, of what you were supposed to be able to physically do in a bedroom. And then when you weren't able to meet that, shame showed up because you couldn't match it. Or experiences of having sexual rejection, right? That internalized that something was wrong with you. Maybe when you were a teenager, you got rejected a lot by girls, and that created this internalized sense that there's something wrong with me. No one wants to be sexual with me. There's almost an endless possible stream of things that could create the sense of shame around your sex. And the thing is that your psyche was just really trying to protect you. So if expressing your sexual desires led you to feel shame, to be rejected, to be punished, your brain learned to shut down this part of yourself as really a survival mechanism. So what protected you then unfortunately, is limiting you now. Something that I really want you to understand is that shame is actually the opposite of arousal. So when you're in that shame state, when you're thinking that you are just innately bad or wrong, your nervous system goes into that protection mode. Blood flow decreases, sensitivity decreases, and your ability to really be present and connected decreases, which are all things that you really want to have when you're entering into an aroused state. So shame can make you perform instead of experience, worry about how you look instead of feeling what's happening, can lead you to stay in your head instead of dropping into your body. You can hold back your natural expressions or pleasure. You can avoid really vulnerability and emotionally being intimate during sex, of actually opening your heart and your mind. It can also hold you back from being able to be present in the moment, where instead you're focused on doing it right, as opposed to allowing your authentic desires to come forward. I just want to say this is that, first of all, two things. One, this is probably something that your partner or your sexual partners are experiencing for themselves. And two, women can feel this. When you are disconnected from your own sexual power, it creates this energetic flatness where you're not fully there, you're not fully alive, and you're not fully expressed. And it's not inspiring for anybody. It's not inspiring for you. It's not inspiring for whoever it is that you're with. So with all of that said, you might be wondering, okay, I'm definitely connecting with some of this, but what do I actually do now? So if you're asking yourself, how do we move beyond this? How do I reclaim my sexual power and really step into the kind of sexual expression and experiences that I truly am desiring? First, I want to share some really powerful questions that can really help you start to challenge some of the shame-based beliefs that you might be carrying with you. So the first question is this: what would I do sexually if I knew I was completely loved and accepted exactly as I am? So thinking, if I knew that the woman that I was with loved and accepted me regardless of what I wanted to do sexually, what would I actually want to do? The second question is, if my sexual desires were actually a gift rather than a problem, how would I relate to them differently? If you're a man who is really sexually exploratory, really open, really desiring to have sex quite often, you might be thinking this is a problem that I've been carrying around with me. I have this huge desire and all of this openness, and I just want to have sex all of the time. That's like a problem for me. What if it was actually a gift? What if you were able to reframe that and view this part of yourself as a really beautiful aspect of what makes you who you are? The next question is, what would change about my sex life if I trusted that my pleasure mattered as much as my partner's? And then number 4, if there was nothing wrong with me sexually, what would I stop hiding? All right, we all have these sexual fantasies or aspects of ourselves that we hide within the corners and crevices of our mind, thinking, I don't ever want to expose this. And maybe you want to keep it hidden, and that's like part of the excitement for you. Sometimes that's like part of why fantasies are so fun, because you know that they will live in your mind. And at the same time, is there a part of you that's wanting to no longer hide something within yourself? If there was nothing wrong with you sexually, what would you stop hiding? And then the 5th question I have for you here is, what would I ask for if I knew that the answer would be yes? This is probably my favorite question because it makes things really simple. If you knew that your answer was going to be yes, if you're with your sexual partner or whoever you've been with or going to be with, if you knew that you could ask for anything and they would be like a whole big giant yes, what would you ask for? So these questions are really designed to help you imagine a sexual reality that is beyond shame. Because the first step in really healing some of this shame is recognizing that there might be another way to see yourself and your sexuality. With those questions in mind, and maybe you're starting to recognize what my reality could really look like, let's shift gears into how to actually take some of this and put it into action. So when some of these shame-based thoughts start to come up, maybe you're with your partner and you're starting to recognize, ooh, I'm wanting to do this, but there's something that's telling me to hold back, to not make that noise, to not ask for that exploration, to not go there, to not be bigger, to not be rougher. Notice the thought, notice the belief, really without judgment. Maybe it's something like you've been telling yourself, I'm disgusting for wanting that, or I think about sex too much. So notice it. Like, it's interesting that I'm having that thought. Or you can say something to yourself like, I'm noticing that I'm having this thought. I'm disgusting for wanting that. Starting to separate yourself from the thought a little bit more. And then you want to ask yourself, is this thought actually true? And be really honest. Is there any evidence that having this sexual desire makes you a bad person? Is there any evidence that thinking about sex frequently is harmful? Is it hurting you? Is it hurting someone else? Like, really start to ask yourself, is this actually based in truth and reality? And be honest. Maybe sometimes the answer could be yes if you're having and be really honest. And then from there, consider alternative interpretations. So what if your sexual energy is actually life force energy? What if your desires are your body's way of calling you towards deeper connection and bigger pleasure, not just for you, but for your partner, for your woman? What if your sexuality is actually one of your superpowers? If you start to think and create alternative interpretations about your thoughts in this space, what becomes possible? And all of these things can be true, right? If your sexual energy is this, sexual energy truly is life force. You're creating life with it. So what if you started to look at this incredible sexual energy and sexual desire that you have as life force energy that you are gifted with and getting to give to the world? Starting to look at alternative ways to experience your sexuality. And then look for evidence that actually supports that alternative view. So think about times when your sexuality brought joy and connection and pleasure and depth to yourself and your partner. Think about the fact that sexuality is literally how life creates more life. So start looking for evidence, looking for moments in your past or in your present that support this alternative interpretation, this alternative viewpoint. And then choose the belief that actually serves you. You get to decide how you interpret your sexual experiences. You can choose beliefs that expand your life rather than contract it. I want to give you a real example of how this looks. Imagine that there is a 7-year-old boy sitting in the living room, and maybe this was you when you were 7, and he sees a beautiful woman on TV. It's a commercial or a music video, something like that, and he feels something stirring in his body. It's new, it's exciting, it feels really good. He's not really sure what's happening, but naturally, he starts touching himself. And then suddenly someone walks into the room and sees him, and they're like, maybe it's like an older sister, and she's like, ew, what are you doing? Stop that now. Like, that's so disgusting. And then the boy runs into his room. He slams the door shut, and he's flooded with shame in his body. His little 7-year-old brain is trying to make sense of this experience, and he's like, oh, this feeling must be wrong. Like, they just yelled at me and told me I was gross. Like, what I did was bad. Sex must be bad. I'm bad for feeling this way. And here's the thing. That was just his little kid brain interpretation of the experience. His little brain thought, she said, ew, she said, stop. So it must mean that there's something wrong with me and what I just did. But what if someone had knocked on the door instead? What if mom or dad knocked on the door, and what if they asked to come in and they sat down next to him and they explained what he was feeling? What if they had told him how special and natural that experience actually is? What if they had explained that this is a beautiful part of life that he gets to experience and enjoy by himself and with special people when he gets older? They sat down and walked through all of this and let him know how incredible it is that he's going to have sexual experiences when he's older, and that He can really enjoy this part of himself, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Do you think that that boy would have grown up thinking, I'm bad, sex is bad? Likely not. So it's not the event itself, it's our interpretation of the event that builds these beliefs. And we unknowingly carry them with us into adulthood, into our bedrooms, and into our relationships. But here's the beautiful thing. You get to interpret these experiences now. You get to choose a new story about your sexuality. And that, my guys, is so powerful. So beyond challenging these beliefs really mentally, I want to also give you some embodied practices that can help you release some of the shame that you might feel sexually. So the first technique is really a self-compassion practice. So when shame shows up, or when some of those thoughts show up, or that like feeling inside of you, maybe it's contraction, maybe it's like a guttural response. You can do this now, but place your hand on your heart and speak to yourself like you would a dear friend, or like you would like that 7-year-old boy. You could say things like, of course you have sexual desires. You are a healthy, alive man. There's nothing wrong with you. And that practice takes 10 seconds. If you did it with me just now, beautiful. Start doing that with yourself every once in a while when you start noticing some of this come up. The second technique is what I call the pleasure appreciation practice. So start noticing and appreciating non-sexual pleasures throughout your day. Appreciate the taste of your coffee in the morning. Appreciate the feeling of warm water in the shower, the satisfaction of a good workout. Appreciate what is unfolding in your life. And this is really here because it will help you reconnect with pleasure as something that is natural and good. So the more you can experience non-sexual things in your life pleasurably, the more sexual pleasure begins to feel natural and good. You're basically rewiring your mind and your brain and your neural circuitry to associate positively with pleasure. The third technique is the body gratitude practice. So I want you to look at your body in the mirror, and instead of focusing on what is wrong with it, appreciate what's working. Thank your body for its capacity for pleasure, for sensation, for connection. And you can also do this when you're in a self-pleasure practice. If you're masturbating or giving yourself a testicle massage or rubbing your dick one day in the morning when you wake up, or maybe you're in the shower and you just take a moment and hold your cock and say something really kind to yourself, really kind to your penis, like, "Woo, thank you, my homie. Thank you, my dude. Love you, man." Like whatever comes up for you, like give appreciation to this part of yourself that is so incredible and so powerful. Start building a really powerful relationship to your dick. And then the fourth technique is really the desire honoring practice. So instead of pushing away sexual thoughts or desires, try saying thank you to them. When they pop up in your mind or in your body, say, thanks. Thank your body for being alive. Thank your body for being attracted to beauty, for wanting connection. And this is going to start shifting you from that resistance to that acceptance state of being. And here's what I want you to understand on a deep level. Your sexuality is not separate from your spirituality, your power, or your purpose. Your sexual energy is, yes, that life force energy. It is creative energy. It is the same energy that drives you to excel in your career, to create, to connect, to love. When you're disconnected from your sexual power because of shame, you're disconnected from a fundamental part of your aliveness. And that affects everything. It affects your confidence, your presence, your energy levels, your ability to create and connect. Like if you're waking up in the morning and you're feeling really exhausted and drained and flat, there's a big possibility that your sexual energy hasn't been activated, isn't being fully released and experienced. Now, when you can heal some of this shame and really step into your sexual expression that's true to you, incredible things can truly happen. You will become more alive. You will become more present, more confident, more attractive. Women will be magnetized to you. You can become more creative, like really more everything. Because sexuality isn't just about what happens in the bedroom. It's about how alive you are in your body, how present you are in your life, and how willing you are to really be seen and vulnerable and real. And if you want to dive deeper into this work, if you're ready to really step fully into your sexual confidence and power to free yourself from some of these limitations and become the lover that you're truly meant to be, that you know you are deep down inside, I invite you to check out my legendary lover training program at thenakedconnection.com/lover, LOVER. This is where we do the deep work of transformation, where you learn not just techniques, but how to embody your full sexual power. I want to share something with you that I think is really important here. In a world that often shames male sexuality, that like puts you down for being a man, for wanting sex, it's easy to forget that your sexual desire, your arousal, your passion, that these are gifts. Your capacity to be moved by beauty, to want to give and receive pleasure, this is part of your masculine essence. And when you express this authentically without shame, it's actually a gift to the women in your life too. Because authentic sexual energy, it's really magnetic. It's inspiring. It invites others into their own aliveness. But this only works when it's coming from a place of self-acceptance rather than shame, from presence rather than performance, and from love rather than need. So here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to start paying attention to where shame shows up in your sex life. Not to judge it, but simply just to notice it. You're like an investigator, you're gathering intel. And when you notice it, I want you to try the simple practice of taking a breath, breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, putting your hand on your heart, and saying, this is just an old belief. It's not the truth about me. And then ask yourself one of those 5 powerful questions that I shared earlier. Let yourself imagine what would be possible if you truly believe there was nothing wrong with your sexuality. You don't have to believe it completely right away. Just be willing to consider that there might be another way to see yourself. Sexual shame is one of the biggest blocks to the kind of authentic, powerful, connected sex that most men actually desire. But shame is learned, which means that it can also be unlearned. You get to decide how you relate to your sexuality. You get to choose beliefs that expand your life rather than contract it. You get to step into the full expression of your sexual power. And when you do, everything changes, not just your sex life, but your whole entire daily life. Because when you're no longer hiding from or ashamed of a fundamental part of who you are, you show up differently in the world. You become more confident, more present, more alive. And that is fucking attractive. So thank you guys so much for being here today. This is truly important work that we're doing together. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend who might need to hear this message. And remember, if you have questions, stories, or topics that you want to cover on the show, please head over to thenakedconnection.com/question and make sure that you submit your inquiry to be answered on the show. All right, until next time, please step into your power, embrace your sexuality, and let's get some. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Naked Connection. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Trust me on this, your sex life and that special someone in your life will thank you for it. And if you really love the show, please take a moment and leave a 5-star review or a written review and let me know what you think. It would mean so much to me and this show. Until next time, happy connecting.